Hey guys, welcome back to Andy's Dinosaur Reviews. Today we are going to take a look at another of these National Geographic wildlife wow figures, and this is their Velociraptor. And for some reason, they continue to have their releases look similar to the Jurassic Park style figures. Being National Geographic, you would expect more scientific accuracy. Now, I don't know entirely for sure how long ago the figure was released, but just in general, looking at it right here in front of us, we can see that it has a very strong Jurassic Park feel. Clearly not a feathered Velociraptor or anything, which can be forgiven if this was released before we started to believe that Velociraptors were in fact feathered, but at the same time, being National Geographic, you would expect more accuracy within the figure. It says it's made in China. I'm trying to find a year on this somewhere to try to get at least some sort of an idea as to when it was made, but it doesn't appear as though there is a year, so we really have no idea. We're just left to assume that this figure was created before we started to believe that the Velociraptors did in fact have feathers. But regardless, we're going to take this for what it is. We'll just claim it's an older style Velociraptor and take a look at it up close right now. So starting up here at the head sculpt, even though it does have a bit of a Jurassic Park style to the figure itself, you can see that the detailing up close definitely doesn't look really like a Jurassic Park style Velociraptor, especially in the eye socket area. All that detailing around the eye is quite interesting looking. It actually looks pretty cool, but looks very different from what a Jurassic Park Velociraptor would look like. The overall skin texture of the face has some nice scaling to it, and they've given this a very nice dark wash, which I think brings the detail out really well on the figure for sure. You've got the nostrils sculpted out up here. You can also see lips on the Velociraptor, as well as a really nicely sculpted mouth that is closed. It is in a closed position. It's not articulated or anything, so it does stay closed, which is really cool to see. It's very different than most, especially when it comes to a Velociraptor. You normally see them posed as very menacing, but that is not what we see with this one. The detailing up here on the top of the head also looks quite nice. Really beautiful skin texture all over the figure. The head primarily is like a mixture of blues, greens, even some pink areas, so there's a bit of color variation included. The eyes are painted with a yellowish coloration and a nice black pupil. The eye on that side is a little sloppy. This one honestly looks a bit better, I think, than the previous one, and you can get a better idea of the actual coloration, I think, on this side. Really nice green here on the underside, on the lower jaw. For the most part, it looks pretty decent. The eye actually appears to be looking too far backward. It's almost like it's looking behind itself, but I don't think the figure is all that appealing with the paint, because I don't like this weird blue that they have showing up here and there. I think the green they chose looks pretty cool, but the blue just does not play off of it very well, and I think looks a bit awkward. As we start to move down into the neck, you can see lots of skin wrinkling going on here all throughout the neck region of the Velociraptor. The really nice skin texture continues. You can see the spinal column as we run down the neck. You can see some nice skin wrinkling going on here in the throat region as well. Lots of beautiful skin wrinkles right in this general vicinity. As we lead down here into the body of the animal, you can sort of see the shoulder blade there, but it's not all that noticeable. The arms look really good. Again, the skin texture is really nicely displayed thanks to that dark wash they've included, and you can start to see some color variation included throughout the animal. You've got like this pinkish coloration for the underside, which is a very strange color, but it looks pretty cool, and you can see that starting to show up here and there on the arm. Nice musculature as we move down the arms into the hand sculpts. Again, the hand sculpts look very similar to what you would see on a Jurassic Park Velociraptor, so that still continues to lead me to believe that maybe these were inspired from the film, but who knows. Nicely painted nails. They do appear to have a gloss coat on the nails, so they look pretty realistic. As we move back into the body, you can see that the skin texture looks pretty nice. There's some pretty nice scaling, as well as lots of creasing in the skin throughout. You can see the underside also sports some really nice detailing. Once we get to the leg, you can see that the leg has some nice muscle tone to it, but I feel like the legs are exceptionally long. Like if this raptor had its legs stretched out really far standing straight up, he would look ridiculous. And I think the overall size of the leg is a little bit off as far as the proportions go, but as far as the detailing, looks pretty nice. As we move down the body, you can see the seam here where the leg is connected, which I don't really think is a big deal, but it's definitely visible. That might bother some people. You've got a nice calf muscle as well. The skin texture looks really good as we move down into the foot. Here's another area I feel like the toes are just way too long on the feet. Specifically, the toe with the sickle claw you can see is exceptionally long, really, really long. And again, down here on this one, look at how ridiculously long that toe is. But the toes on the feet, all of the toes look really too long. But the actual detailing within them looks pretty nice, has a nice scoot-like appearance running down each of the toes, and the nails are painted with a blackish coloration. And as I turn it, you can definitely see that it does include a gloss coat on the nails to make them look quite realistic. As we move back into the tail here, you can see some more nice creasing, nice skin detail right there. As we lead out the length of the tail, that really nice skin texture does continue. We pick up those kind of ugly bluish stripes, which I don't really like. Again, the figure is very soft, very squishy, very recur-like, and actually Dinomania-like as well. But the arms are kind of a hard plastic, and as are the legs. Once we get to the knee, it's soft here. Once we get to here, it becomes a very hard plastic. So it's a little bit harder than most of the area as far as this dinosaur figure goes. If you're buying this for your kids, it's probably really safe, except for the arms and feet. Looking at this side though, you can see some nice skin texture as we move down into the neck. Really beautiful detailing right here. I love the way the skin is kind of twisted, because you can see the raptor's head is turned to the left, so it's really twisting the skin here in the throat. I think that skin detail there is a really nice touch, nice kind of hanging skin in the throat as well. Once we move down into the body, you can again see some nice detailing, really beautiful skin texture in the arm. I love the arm sculpt of these Velociraptors, honestly. Really beautifully done. I don't think the paint looks that good. The nice wash looks great. The green, the tones of green they've used looks really good, but you can see kind of some sloppiness, like right here. Some of the paint in some of the areas is just applied a little too thick, I think. But you can see some nice skin stretching here off of the body as this leg is pulling back. It's really far as far as the way it's stretched, so it's really beautifully stretching the skin right there. Nicely done as far as that goes when it comes to sculpting out the minute details. Really nice hip bone right here, you can see. Beautiful thigh muscles once again, and calf muscles. You can see the seam at the knee once again, and there's the really nice foot sculpt, but again the toes are just too long. But the actual detailing does look quite nice. For some reason we actually don't have dew claws, which I didn't notice before. I don't know why they chose not to include those. But then we run out the length of the tail, and the tail looks pretty decent. I feel like the tail might be a little too small straight away in comparison to the body, but actually maybe it would look good if the legs weren't so big. So maybe it's just the legs that are kind of messing with it. But regardless, it's an interesting Velociraptor figure. Definitely not the best, but at the same time not the worst. One of the other issues with the Velociraptor is it doesn't stand very well, so it tends to fall over a lot. So as far as balancing issues go, it's not that great. But as far as a size goes, for a length, we are going to see from the head to the tail at about 10 3/4 inches, or around 27.5 centimeters in length. And for a height to the top of the head, you're looking at about 6 3/4 inches, or around 17 centimeters, somewhere in that range, maybe a little over. For a size comparison, we have the Attack Pack Colovosaurus, Mr. Papo T-Rex, and Robert Muldoon currently trying to turn away from his worst nightmare, which is a gigantic Velociraptor. But next to these figures, you could definitely see that this Velociraptor is really quite sizable. It's even taller than the Papo Rex. So if you are in the market for a very Jurassic Park style Velociraptor with a really large size, this could definitely be your guy. So this National Geographic Wildlife Wow Velociraptor is pretty cool, but it's definitely not the best Velociraptor ever, that's for sure. Again, sporting a very Jurassic Park style look to it. It has some nice detailing throughout, and primarily has some really beautiful skin texture all over the figure, and the inclusion of a nice dark wash has brought all the detail out of the figure really nicely and helped to give it kind of a lifelike look. The body proportions are a bit off. I think everything looks good until you get to the legs, and the legs just appear to be a little bit too long, and then the feet specifically are really bad as far as the length of the toes and everything. They just look very strange overall. Aside from that, I think the proportions look pretty good on the figure. Maybe the tail could have been a little bit longer, but for the most part it looks decent enough. Again, the detailing isn't exactly what you would see on a Jurassic Park Velociraptor, but I feel like it was really heavily influenced from it, which is very strange when you have a National Geographic figure. As I said earlier, you would expect much more of a scientific accuracy style approach. That's not what you get here, but it all really depends as to when the figure was made, if that's something we can let slide or not. The paint application is kind of ugly. I'm not a huge fan of the kind of blue that they have here and there littering the animal, striping through and just spotting in certain areas, but I think the tones of green they used were pretty nice, and even that little bit of a pinkish coloration on the head looks alright. The pink underside is very strange. It's not that great and kind of off-putting as far as I'm concerned. I feel like they could have done a better job as far as the color scheme on the figure goes, but what is present isn't terrible. It's just not that great. That's kind of the overall theme, I think, of this Velociraptor. It's not terrible, but it's not that great either. Regardless, it's kind of hard to find this sometimes. I don't know if Hobby Lobby has them consistently in stock, but maybe checking Hobby Lobby might be a good way to go when it comes to trying to find one. They used to be on Amazon, but they're not really on there very often anymore. I will try my best to locate one of these, a link to purchase one somewhere, but if I can't, again, your best bet is probably to just check Hobby Lobby if you do want to pick one up. So, happy hunting, guys. Hopefully, if you do want one, you can acquire one, but also make sure you like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you in the next review. Thanks for watching.